What is the real rate of inflation? By the end of this video episode, you will understand that the government changed the way they calculate the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, twice back in the 1980s because they didn't want to have to pay Social Security recipients the actual cost of living increase. So you will understand that they actually can compare apples to oranges when they report the cost of living increase. Get ready. This is going to blow you away. So I've been around the block for 48 years as a financial strategist. I started in 1974. Helping people optimize assets, minimize taxes, empower their authentic wealth for goals like retirement. And so I've been helping a lot of people hopefully not outlive their money during retirement, because most Americans, following the herd, putting money in IRAs and 401ks, thinking they're going to be in a lower tax bracket when they retire, they find that there are three big dangers that causes them to outlive their money: taxes, inflation, and market volatility. So this episode is going to talk about inflation, because as of the recording of this episode, the true rate of inflation is over 15% the previous year. I'm talking about the year 2021. And yet the government says, oh, no. The rate of inflation was only like 5.8 or 5.9%. We know, because we calculate this stuff. Now, Americans are smarter. They go to the gas pump and they are paying 50 to 100% more for gasoline. Used cars went up 20%. There are a lot of commodities that have gone through the roof, and they know better. So how do we reconcile the difference between what the government says the inflation rate is and the true rate of inflation? That's the subject of this episode. So in case you weren't aware, way back, the last time when inflation was sort of horrible like it was in the year 2021 was during Jimmy Carter's years, okay? And I was working as a financial strategist clear back then. And inflation got to double digit, 10% and even 14%. And because of my favorite instrument back then, which was Universal Life, this was pre-index Universal Life, when inflation was 10, I was earning 15.5%. Because I've always been able to outpace inflation by using properly structured Universal Life and then later on index Universal Life. But way back then, the government decided they could not afford to pay Social Security recipients, retirees, the actual cost of living increase. And so they decided to change the way they calculate inflation, or the CPI, Consumer Price Index. And through a series of changes, they used to compare a basket of goods to the same basket of goods, like apples to apples, year to year. They changed that. Now it's like apples to oranges, which means the government can actually compare the price of an 8-ounce filet mignon steak last year to 8 ounces of hamburger this year if it's red meat. And you say, really? Oh yeah, they do this all the time. So when they did that, you take the years like from 1981 and you go through 2021. So this is a period of 40 years. You can see here the real rate of inflation is clear up here in the blue. This is what the government reported inflation was down here. There's this huge difference between the actual cost of living increase and what the government says it is, because this is all they want to pay Social Security recipients. And unfortunately, through the years, you'll see this difference between what the government says the CPI is and what the actual cost of living increase is. And that's what happened in 2021. The government, I have Social Security coming in. And they act like, oh, we're heroes. Inflation was 5.8, 5.9%, somewhere in that range. You're going to get the biggest increase in years. Well, hello. The real rate of inflation was over 15%. So it's ridiculous. You can almost triple whatever they tell you to come up with the actual rate of inflation. So let's talk about what is the real rate of inflation and how you can calculate it using, simple math like the rule of 72. But, for years, this is a cartoon showing me with a caricature here, where I have this ammunition, this artillery, weaponry that helps people like you fight the battles of life, especially with financial assets and accumulation, the negative impact of taxes, inflation, and market volatility. And so I have this ammunition, and so many times people are so busy living their lives, earning a living, they go, I can't be bothered by some crazy salesman. I've got a battle to fight. And I'm sitting there with this weaponry, this ammunition is called Max Funded Indexed Universal Life that will help them eliminate the dangers of taxes, inflation, and market volatility. They'll be able to conquer these financial battles. And yet I can't get their attention unless something really bad happens. Well, I've been getting people's attention because inflation now is where I told them it was going to start being, because they've been printing money. The government has been printing money like crazy because of COVID-19 pandemic, because of these economic stimulus packages and infrastructure bills and all kinds of things. And so in a nutshell, because of COVID-19, from the last year of Trump's administration and the first year of Biden's, they basically spent 3 times as much as they bring in. I mean, hello? If you were making $100,000 a year and you spent $300,000, how long can you keep spending 3 times more than you bring in before what? You would have to file bankruptcy. But see, the government, they spend more than they bring in, and then how do they solve it? They raise taxes, they print money, which causes inflation. Now, they've been printing money like crazy. They were supposed to stop printing excess money clear back in March of the year 2021. And then they still had some bills to pass, so they extended it to June. And then it's still going as of the recording of this episode in 2022. And then they go, well, I don't know, inflation is just transitory. Baloney. No, it's here to stay because they've been printing way too much money. When you have a tremendous supply of money, then the cost of goods and services, it inflates. They have to go up. It's just supply and demand. It's basic Economics 101. So they're spending trillions of dollars. The IRS brings in about $4 trillion in tax. They give about $800 billion back in refunds, and they net $3.2 trillion, and they've been spending over $9 trillion, okay? $1 trillion would be $1 bills lined up end to end from here to the moon and back 200 times. You talk about $9 trillion, and they just act like it's nothing. So folks, you have programs like Social Security. And clear back in 2009, for the first time, Social Security benefits paid out, were more than the FICA taxes that were withheld. And so it's a train wreck waiting to happen. And that's why so many times people say, well, I thought we had another 30 years before Social Security would run out of money. No, they would be totally bankrupt in about 9 months if they stopped withholding money from workers' paychecks. Well, this is why years ago I created an ebook called How to Create Your Own Economic Stimulus Plan. And in this ebook, it still relates to today. This is like the USS economy, okay? And it's a sinking ship right now. And so many times we hire or we elect these congressional leaders, and they're like on the deck of a sinking Titanic, rearranging deck chairs where they're going to spend and all this, and on a sinking Titanic. And so what my goal has always been is to help you understand that if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will become your downfall. And I love this country too much to see you get hurt by that. So I've often wanted to help people understand strategies. So this channel, Three-Dimensional Wealth, is designed to help you understand how to combat these negative impact of taxes, inflation, and market volatility that's going to cause this ship to sink. I want you to stay afloat. And so with these strategies on this channel, it's about you. It's about your brighter future. And I would recommend you align yourself with advisors that know how to keep you afloat, no matter what taxes, inflation, and market volatility does. Because if your advisor is telling you to just stay the course and keep your money in tax-deferred IRAs and 401ks in the market will come back. You're headed for trouble, okay? So sometimes 401ks are not the cat's meow we think they are. they actually stink, in my opinion, and there's far better alternatives. Because Uncle Sam is going to have to take a bigger and bigger piece of the American taxpayers' pie, and that's what's happening right now with raising taxes, printing money, and it also causes market volatility, and people will outlive their money. Mark my word, you've got to eliminate those dangers. That's my passion and purpose. That's why I love max-funded IUL. So here is the economy, and the economy really would like to be scoring touchdowns, but who's holding us back? Some of these legislators that keep wanting to spend and print money, thinking that that doesn't cause inflation. They haven't even been to Economics 101 yet. Okay. So this is why I have acronyms. TIME spells taxes, inflation, market volatility, economic uncertainty. Those are the dangers that I like to help people like you eliminate. And my favorite vehicle, Max Funded IUL, I call the LASER Fund. LASER is an acronym that stands for Liquid Assets Safely Earning Returns. And so my purpose here is to help you understand how to combat inflation. So how do you calculate the real rate of inflation? You can use Rule of 72 math. If you don't know what that is, you take whatever interest rate, let's say you're earning on money, and you divide that number, let's say it's 8%, into 72, your money will double every 9 years. If you're earning 5%, it doubles every 14.4 years. 10% every 7.2 years. I've been averaging about 10% net cash on my max funded IUL for years by rebalancing and so forth. So let's say you started with $125,000 and you never added a dime in the first year. And let's say you're earning 7.2. Now, I use this number because in the worst decade since the Great Depression, the year 2000 to 2010, by using indexed universal life without rebalancing, if you fell asleep like Rip Van Winkle in the year 2000 and you woke up in 2010 and said, what happened in America while I was asleep? You didn't hear about 9/11 terrorist attacks? You didn't hear about 2008? People lost 40% twice in their savings during the last decade. You go over and you look at your IUL policy, and if you had $1 million in the year 2000, it was worth $2 million because the average return was 7.23%, even though you had 5 loss years. Most 10-year periods, you only have 3 loss years compared to 7 up. That decade, there were 5 loss years. So in IUL, you didn't make anything those 5 years, but you didn't lose. The other 5 years, you made what the economy did. You only capped out twice, if you know what capped are on IUL. But people earned 7.23%. Your money doubled. $1 million worth $2 million. See, 125,000, if it is earning 7.2, will double to 250,000 in 10 years, 500,000 in the 20th year, $1 million in year 30. I've had many people do this. If you stock away $500 a month for 30 years and you earn this, you will have $1 million nest egg. There's several ways to stack up $1 million. I have a lot of videos about this. Okay, let's say you're going to retire and you have $1 million nest egg and it's earning 7.2%. Well, theoretically, you ought to be able to pull out 72,000, 7.2% of $1 million, 72,000 a year in annual income without depleting principal. But if this is a tax-deferred IRA or 401k in a 33% bracket between federal and state tax, you're going to pay 24,000 in tax. You're only netting 48,000 or 4,000 a month to buy gas, groceries, prescriptions, and golf green fees. And so that's $4,000 a month. Well, what does inflation do to this? If you have $1 million nest egg at 5% inflation, okay, then the 4,000 a month that you started with at 5%, 5 into 72 means the cost of living will double in about 14.4. Let's just round it to 15 years. That will only buy what 2,000 a month buys today. And you're going to need 8,000 a month in 15 years to buy what 4,000 a month buys today, the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread. Are you getting it? Because I divided 5% into 72, the cost of living doubles every 15 years, or the purchasing power is cut in half. Okay. Whoa, now we've been way higher than 5%. So if inflation is 3%, it doubles every 24 years. If it's 5, it doubles in 15 years. Well, the real rate of inflation has been more like 7.2% for quite a while. The cost of living doubles in 10 years. Well, at 9.6%, it doubles in 7.5 years. At 12%, it doubles in 6 years. But inflation has been over 15% in the year 2021. 15% into 72 means the cost of living will double in less than 5 years. Hello? It means if you could get by on $100,000 a year today, in 5 years, you're going to need $200,000 to buy the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread that $100,000 buys today. Now, people may say, well, I don't need 100. I only need 50. Well, then you're going to need 100. But see, it keeps doubling. In 10 years, you'll need 400,000 to buy what 100,000 buys today. People are going to outlive their money. Now, all I'm going to say here at the end is this. Our clients, because they use max-funded IUL, in the year 2021, when inflation was 15%, and in less than 5 years, it'll cost twice as much to live, many of our clients locked in gains of 25% tax-free on their IUL policies. $1 million was worth $250,000, $1,250,000 at the end of the year. But we had some clients that locked in gains of 61.33%. So inflation might be at 15, but they earned 61.33%. We had one client that started out in March of 2020 with a little over $800,000 in their IUL policy. They didn't add a dime, and it had over $500,000 of growth in one single year. It was worth $1,382,000 in March of 2021. It also means in the next year, if the market crashed, they would not lose one dime of the $500,000 they made the year before. Those are locked in gains. That's the beauty of max-funded IUL. It helps you outpace inflation because you're linking your returns to the things that inflate. So be sure and study on this channel, and I want you to read my book. It's called The Laser Fund. Here's how you can claim your free copy of my 11th book, The Laser Fund. It's 300 pages of charts, graphs, explanations, and 62 actual client stories of how people have utilized max-funded IUL for all kinds of goals: retirement, emergency funds, working capital for business, real estate management, college funding for the kids and grandkids, all kinds of uses. This is how to diversify and create the foundation for a tax-free retirement. Now, here's how you claim your free copy. You simply go to laserfund.com, L-A-S-E-R fund.com, or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost. I'll pay for the book, and I'll fire out a copy to you. If you like to listen and learn, watch and learn, you can also do that. There's an 18-hour masterclass. There's information there on educational webinars, and I can also point you to the advisors who understand how to implement these strategies correctly. But I want you to take ownership of your brighter future today. Claim your copy, and here's to your brighter future.